The girls have a '69 Mustang with a supercharged stroker engine in it. The owner is a little late to the EFI game, but this engine really needs the throttle response. Once the EFI is mounted and new fuel pump is installed, there is no hiding this extra boost.
You got your seatbelts on?
Lap belt engaged.
All right.
Haven't had lunch yet.
Definitely have some fun with this for sure. Hey guys, welcome to All Girls Garage. We're obviously out on a little bit of a chilly day, but enjoying an awesome test drive in a very hot car. This is a '69 Mustang. The guy's owned it for about 15 years, and he's been adding horsepower a little bit at a time. He's actually got a 4-weight stroker in it, and he's added a supercharger to it.
Heck yeah. 15 years is a long time to own a car. That is commitment. And over time, at some point in those 15 years, when he added the supercharger kit to it, he wanted to make it fuel injection as well, but there wasn't a good kit available at the time. So now a little time has elapsed. The technology has arrived, and we have picked out the most perfect fuel injection kit possible. And that's what we are doing today.
Are you noticing the fuel smell in here?
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, we're getting a little high in here. I'm pretty sure that this is not burning all of the fuel as effectively as it should be, so hopefully the fuel injection will help with that too.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing that we're getting a baseline for how this thing drives, because we'll get a chance to feel it when we are done with this modification, see how many horsepowers we are adding.
But first, since it's already hot at this point, we're gonna need to let it cool off anyway before we work on it. Might as well have some more fun.
Sounds good.
Well, Faye and I were out on our test drive. We talked about how this was a blow-through style carburetor, but we didn't exactly say what that means. Basically, it's a way of modifying your carburetor so that instead of just kind of sucking in the air and fuel via engine vacuum, it's allowing for air to be pushed in through the supercharger so that it can get all the extra air and extra fuel. You can see there's a fuel pressure regulator here, which isn't something you'd normally see on a carbureted vehicle. So it's a way of modifying all this so you can jam pack more air and fuel in through that carburetor.
Absolutely. But as we noticed in the test drive, this is a very inefficient system. We used a lot of fuel. I mean, we did kind of joyride.
Yeah,
but
well,
still,
there's a lot of unburnt fuel going up tailpipe.
Yeah, true that. And we noticed that we had a little hard time at startup and idle after the car warmed up. So what we're about to do now is really going to solve some of the problems.
On to the fun stuff.
Start ripping
the rip and tear stage.
Excellent. Nailed it. Cool. Got it? Yep.
Okay, cool.
Behold, our new Holley Super
Sniper
Stealth.
EFI. Say that 10 times fast.
It's a long name.
But really, it's beautiful, isn't it? And it is kind of stealth because it's all blacked out. It's kind of cool. And all of the wiring exits out the back so you don't have ugly wiring harnesses everywhere. The ECU is integrated into the unit so you don't have to mount that somewhere else. And it's really just a nice, neat little package central port fuel injection system that will accommodate our blower setup.
Absolutely, and it comes with everything that we need. And check out this cool full color display screen we can put inside.
Pretty
Either
nifty.
mount it so we can see it or hide it for ultimate stealth. I'm ready.
You ready? All right. So we're gonna take this over. We're gonna set it down on top of the intake manifold. We're not going to install it permanently yet. And I say we start with getting our plumbing all set up.
Sounds good.
And move on to wiring.
Perfect.
Cool. So we're just gonna set this down. And our wiring will tuck nicely once we have it all routed.
Yeah, that's going to look awesome. I'm sure we'll be able to find somewhere in there.
It's gonna look sweet.
Well, I guess we'll start plumbing this on and
Let's do it.
this guy off and
Yep.
I'll take this one on.
So we'll see if There we go.
Double girl power.
Go. Gadget teamwork. Oh, I got it.
We're actually going to have to replace this bolt because it is
It's busted.
stripped. Oh my God.
then we've got some different mounting holes here. So I'm going to be using the new bracket. Come here. Come on, come on. To make a template. And actually, that's going to fit just fine. There's plenty of room there. Not too tight on these. Just tight enough to get a leak. That should be good.
Faye has the regulator installed, and when All Girls Garage returns, Bogey shows how to make the fuel lines with AN fittings. Plus, we'll see just how little wiring there is for an EFI kit.
Hey guys, welcome back to All Girls Garage. We are working on our 69 Mustang fuel injection conversion. And as is pretty typical for these projects, the plumbing is kind of the most difficult and time-consuming part. We got lucky in this scenario because we were able to reuse our feed and our return lines once we swapped out our fuel regulator. So now we've got to make a line that's going to wrap around, come back, and come out back to our fuel regulator. So the way we want to do this, you want to select your fittings first and get them put into place. So I'm going with a 180 degree -6 AN fitting back here. That's going to loop my hose nicely, neatly all the way back up here. And then I think I'm going to be able to get away with doing just a straight fitting on my regulator. And so you can kind of see what we're going to be doing here. We got a straight fitting. We got a 180 fitting. Sometimes if you're super strong or feeling spry, you can just muscle this thing on by hand, but it can be a little bit tricky. I like to use the tool. It just makes it a little bit easier. This is a nifty little tool. You put your fitting into the holder like so. Don't get your glove stuck in it. Hold that in there tight. You can put this in a vise, but I find just putting this in here, you can kind of, it's conical shaped, so it kind of helps mash things down. And then just push and turn. There we go. Then we can measure, cut, and do the other side. Should work.
Oh, you took off my smiley. Thank you, Tom. All right, beautiful. Not super tight, not super loose. I would call that gluten tight. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful.
Little guy.
Ready? I'm assuming this is for this.
We're definitely gonna have to adjust this cable. All right, so we are making a ton of progress on this. We've got all of our plumbing done. We've got our cables hooked up for our kickdown and our throttle cable. We had to adjust those because they weren't quite sitting the same way on this unit as they were on the original. But now it's time to do all of our electrical stuff. And really, there's not a lot of wires to worry about here. We've got one that goes down to the O2 sensor. You've already got this one kicked into...
Yes, our coolant temp sensor.
Yes, and then this guy goes into that main harness. You've got that? Yeah, around your neck.
Do, yes. Indeed. Yes, that's going to connect up here. We've got a very basic relay and a fuse. I mean, this is a really complicated harness. I don't know. These 5 wires here are eluding me. No, just kidding.
So much
That's
wiring
one great
to
thing
do.
about this whole setup is that it's so basic. We have our power and our ground, or our constant 12 volt and our ground, like every other wire harness in the world. Then we also have our fuel pump. You can see this one's pretty long. We have no idea where the fuel pump is. Well, we do, but for this kit. And then we have a tach signal, and we have a switched 12 volt, so cranking 12 volt. Yeah. So,
and then one thing to note is the tach signal. On some vehicles, that's going to go to your distributor. On some vehicles, like in this scenario, it's going to go to your MSD box. That's how they're going to communicate with one another and make sure that everything is all on the same page.
You just wanted to talk about that one because it's purple.
I did want to talk about it because it's purple. I also want to suggest that we bring this up onto the lift because the fuel pump wiring and the O2 sensor and all the rest of it, it's just going to be a heck of a lot easier if we do all the rest of the wiring first and then route it up to that main connector.
Totally. And we're going to have to get to the fuel pump anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if we're going to access that from the top or the bottom yet. So, good ideas.
Yeah. Let's get this on the lift, shall we?
Done.
All right. Let's clean this up a little bit first.
The girls need to find a new home for the fuel pump and the 2 fuel filters. And because this is a high-performance engine, they're going to make sure the owner is running the right type of oil.
This is PowerStop's Z26 Street Performance Brake Upgrade Kit. PowerStop makes it easy to order brakes online by bundling these all-in-one kits, which include rotors, pads, brake hardware, pin bushings, and brake lubricant for both the front and the rear axles. The Z26 kit is specifically engineered for high-performance street drivers who need shorter stops. The pads have a carbon fiber ceramic hybrid friction compound that resists fade to 1,500 degrees. This will give your car great bite without dusty wheels. Hey guys, welcome back to All Girls Garage. We are still working on our Mustang EFI conversion.
We have not given up yet.
Not quite yet. We are on to one of the kind of major components of this, which is a new fuel pump, which is going to be able to put out more, bigger, better fuel pressure. What's in there right now is not going to be adequate for the new system.
Yeah, absolutely. For a carbureted system, this thing at best maybe gave out 8 PSI. That's not going to be sufficient for this system. So this, on the other hand, will give us about 80 PSI. And we're going to need about 58 PSI or so, we'll see, for this setup. So this is more than adequate.
Yeah.
We also have these 2 fuel filters. We have one for before the new fuel pump and one for after the fuel pump. One's 100 micron for before and one's 10 micron for after. So pretty sure we only have one filter right
just
now.
one right now, and it's definitely not the right size for what we need.
So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, so first order of business, let's get the old one out of here, shall we?
Excellent. Let's bathe ourselves in fuel.
Let's do that. Whoa, nice! Son of a... There was nothing in there anyway. All right, so we finally got the old pump out. We're ready to go in with the lovely new one. It came with a nifty template that we use to mark and drill some pilot holes to throw some just self-tapping screws in there to hold it up for now. Then we can make sure all our lines work the way they're supposed to. We don't have to modify anything further. And then we'll probably come up with maybe like some nut certs or something to really keep it in there permanently. But for now, I think we are ready to throw a couple of self-tappers in there.
Yeah, so this one looks like it's going to have to be shortened a little bit.
That should work, actually. I don't think we need to mess with this line.
So now that we've completed the mock-up of our fuel pump, I am installing our fuel filters. This is, of course, the 100 micron. As I was mentioning before, this is going to be filtering the fuel coming out of the tank. This is making sure that none of the garbage that's in the gas tank gets to the pump, and then, of course, gets to the injectors and engine internals and so on and so forth. The 10 micron we're going to be placing up a little bit further on the frame rail, and that's just going to make sure that we filter out anything if there is any internal damage in the pump or anything like that. Just making sure that that does not get into the engine. So we have sort of 2 levels of security in this fuel system. So thankfully, I'm able to reuse the lines that we had before. I've got a nice fitting that's going to be going into my fuel pump, and this, well, obviously the flow will be pointing away from the tank and towards the pump. But I'm going to be able to tuck this right up in there and use the lines that we had before. So. All right, so we just finished plumbing all of our new fuel lines. And while we got this car up in the air still, we decided we're going to do some basic maintenance because I don't know about you, but
with all this new horsepower that we've just added, I'm definitely going to want to take this thing out in the street and rip around. Maybe not be passenger for a second time because you scared me the first time. But one of the things that we're going to do is an oil change.
Yeah, because we don't know when the last time an oil change was done on this, and we don't know what kind of oil is in there, so we want to make sure it has the right kind. So we chose AMSOIL, but not just any AMSOIL. This is their Z-Rod formula, which means that it is really specifically designed for engines like these. High-performance engines, ones that are going to really take a beating where you want that extra protection. Now, this is a true synthetic oil. It is 100% synthetic. Now, most people don't necessarily know that you can call yourself synthetic without actually being fully synthetic, but this one is a true one. There's no marketing stuff there. This is real 100%. Now, it has also got a high zinc content to it. This is a specific formula that adds the zinc to it, so it acts as a kind of sacrificial layer, so to speak. The zinc will actually go in and kind of coat all of your metal surfaces, and that way the zinc is what gets worn down instead of the metal components getting worn down, so you keep your engine lasting a whole lot longer.
Right. And back in the day when this car was brand new, engine oil just had zinc in it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, not so much. So if you have an older car like this, especially one with higher horsepower, higher heat applications as well, seeking out an engine oil with zinc in it is it's really important, actually. I'd say almost mandatory. So now that we've talked about this, shall we?
We should.
Go ahead and get this done.
Unknown oil out of there and get the good stuff in.
Heck yeah.
Oh God, that is
dark. Ooh.
Yum.
Not too tight.
Car is back down on the ground, and you can finally see what this all looks like, fully buttoned up and put together. And isn't she pretty?
Yes, Bogey, she's beautiful. I love the way our new EFI system looks sitting in here. But not only is it really beautiful, but it's also really functional. Obviously, it's going to be opening up and really like maximizing the potential of this supercharger and adding a ton more horsepower. It's going to be nice.
But with all that more power and more responsiveness, we get more heat, we get more pressure building up, we get all sorts of more possibility for wear inside the engine, which is why we were talking about the AMSOIL as being such an important thing to have inside this engine to protect everything. It's really going to maintain that viscosity despite all of the increased pressure and temperature, so it's not going to break down. It's going to make sure that you continue to have protection on all of those vital components, even when he's really getting on it, which I'm pretty sure is going to happen the minute he takes this out for a test drive.
Or the minute you take
or
it
the
out
minute
for a
we
test
take it
drive.
out for a test drive. All right. Getting it in there.
Getting it in, girl.
The plumbing is done for the EFI kit, but the girls aren't done onto the car yet. Bogey will show you where the O2 sensor is going to live, and then it's time to get the car back on the road and look at the EFI difference.
Free color catalogs from Classic Parts of America makes it easy for you to find what you need for your classic Chevy or GMC restoration project. There are 8 different catalogs broken down by year range, covering 1947 to 1998 Chevy trucks, 68 to 74 Novas, and 67 to 69 Camaro models. You can just check out their huge inventory of high-quality restoration parts from the comfort of your home. So you can make sure before you start a job that you have everything you need, even down to the nuts and bolts. They're located in the Midwest, and they offer fast shipping options, so you don't have to worry about holding up progress on your project. Welcome back to All Girls Garage. We are almost done with our EFI conversion. Plumbing, check. Wiring, check. Fuel pump, just completed. Last piece to our puzzle is our O2 sensor. Now, there's a couple of rules about this. You want to locate your O2 sensor as close to just after the collector as you possibly can, and no more than 10 inches behind it. And you need to make sure that you have plenty of exhaust. I believe it's at least 18 inches of exhaust after the O2 sensor. Our exhaust goes all the way to the back, so we don't need to worry about that. And lastly, the O2 sensor needs to be at least 10 degrees above parallel to the ground. And it has to be pointing in the upward direction. So we can't have it pointing down. It has to be pointing up, which really reduces the amount of options that we have. The challenge here is that because of all the curves and where the clamp is attaching the headers to the rest of the exhaust, we're kind of limited in where we can go. I don't really have a good spot that I can place our bung, especially because this is a style that's like a plate, right? Instead of having just the threads, we've got the whole plate to it. So I can't put it on the curve on the outside or the inside. I can't put it where the clamp is. I'm thinking that about the only spot that we can put it is right here. The challenge with that, of course, is that it's super tight clearance to get the O2 sensor in there without hitting the frame rail. And I can't fit a drill in there to cut or drill our hole. So we've got some problem solving to do, but we'll figure it out. We got this. Clamps around it, and to make sure that you get everything positioned right, it's always a good idea to throw the O2 sensor into the hole. Tighten your clamps down. You definitely want to get this tight so that it doesn't leak. Now, unfortunately, we ran out of time to show you the programming of this because we really want to show you footage of this thing back out on the road, but it's super straightforward. You plug it in, you let the thing warm up, and it goes into its self-learn procedure, and we'll continue to learn and adapt as it goes. Nothing complicated.
Absolutely. And we found a nice little home for our fuel pump and both of our fuel filters. We've got all of our wiring installed properly, routed nicely, tucked out of the way. Beautiful job, looks really nice. And I think that overall this was a pretty easy kit to install. I'm stoked on this.
Totally. And once we've gotten this out on the road, you can tell the immediate difference it's made. It starts up smoother, it idles better, it accelerates smoother, and I'm not getting high off fuel fumes anymore, so that's really awesome.
Cool. So what do you say we make this an extra long test drive, and we'll see what we get in the shop next week. All right. Bye, y'all.